Good evening, everybody. This is your host, Huge Pop, from the Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast. Tonight, we have a special guest. Our guest tonight is a professional wrestler who wrestles in southwestern states, including Arizona, California, Utah, Colorado, Nevada. He stands at 5'10" and about 250 pounds. He's a kickboxer, powerlifting gold medalist, and a strongman competitor. He currently is the Urban Legend heavyweight champion and formerly the ASCW hardcore champion and the Compton Boulevard 24/7 on-site champion. He usually works in tag team known as the Peacemakers with his tag partner that'll be out here in a little bit, the Manimal, who is 6'3", 3 3/4, and 305 pounds. Please welcome to the show the Cowboy from Hell, Stud Bronson.
Ooh, I liked that. Thank you for having me. I need you to come and announce me all the time. That's good. I like that.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you. So, thank you again for coming on the show. And I know we just talked about what we have in common, and that's so cool that you work with kids. And I say thank you. I praise you, man. This is awesome, man.
Thank you.
So, of course, you probably heard this question all the time. How did you first get into the world of professional wrestling, like childhood memories?
Okay. So I have a couple connecting dots here. So I like telling these stories. The first match I ever saw, I was a little kid. Come back home from church at grandma's. We went to grandma's house after church, and I would watch like Muppet Babies, and it was canceled or maybe the time changed. I don't know. And I went out into the living room and bawling my little baby head off, and she brought me back into the TV room, and she's like, "Well, I think I know something you'll like." And I was like, "Okay." And she turns on pro wrestling, and the match was Shawn Michaels, like just right after the Marty Jannetty split, and Dusty Rhodes when Dusty was with Sapphire.
Yeah.
And Shawn hits the super kick. Dusty goes over the top rope. He falls into this like playpen full of balloons, and they all go up. And he gets up, and him and Sapphire start arguing, and Shawn hits the Shawn pose, and I was hooked. I don't know what. It was perfect. We moved to Kentucky from Arizona, and it was hard to find wrestling on TV in Kentucky. At least the cable we had, which, you know, it's a weird concept nowadays. A lot of people don't remember what that's like. But we eventually came back to Arizona, and I found wrestling again on TV, mostly through a friend of mine named Alan, who had he brought action figures over to play the bone crunching Jack Pacific, and he had British Bulldog, Ahmed Johnson, and I think Gold Dust. And a couple days later, he came over and he had Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I didn't know who this was yet, and Steve was just making that arc into being Stone Cold. Like, we were maybe a year and a half out from him doing the run with Shawn Michaels and taking the heavyweight title at WrestleMania. So I'm hooked. Something about the Steve Austin toy hits me. I find it on TV. I'm a huge Steve Austin fan. My aunt comes for a visit, tells us she's got a new boyfriend. He's going to get us tickets to wrestling. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And he did. And I ended up meeting Steve Austin the Monday Night Raw before he beat Shawn for the heavyweight title. And he was so nice. He was just absolute gentleman. And funny story, I remember it to this day. He smelled like Dove hand soap. And I don't know what I was expecting as a little kid, maybe tobacco and beer, but he didn't smell like that. And I was like, huh. But you know, this progresses. I get into my 20s, and Shawn has his match with Undertaker at WrestleMania, and he's going to retire. And you know, we had the writings on the wall. We knew what was going to happen. Undertaker's not going to lose. And Shawn loses, and you can go back on the network and you can watch this. Shawn's going up the aisle. He's not touching anybody's hands. He's waving. He's blowing his kisses, and he stops and he grabs one dude's hand at the very end. That dude's me.
Really?
Yep. And Shawn looks me right in the eyes, and he goes, "Oh my goodness, how could I ever forget you?" And then he walked off, and I was like, well, and then like 10 more years passed, and then I was like, I'm going to go wrestler. Yeah.
Wow,
so
that is epic.
Lifelong love affair with wrestling, and it just keeps hitting these spots. So
that's awesome. So you were in the crowd, and after the night Shawn Michaels lost to the Undertaker, he comes up and shakes your hand.
Yeah, and the moment felt like it took minutes, like 5-10 minutes. You watch it back, it's instantaneous. He reaches out, grabs my hand. He's there for a split second just to get a sentence out, and he leaves. And it hit like a ton of bricks, man. So I am now a wrestler.
That is awesome. So there was one of my. Have you ever attended a WWE AEW event? So yes, obviously that was it. What, in your opinion, is the big difference between major time wrestling and indie wrestling?
Storytelling. If we're talking differences, on TV, it's pretty paint by numbers. We can see who the guys are, right? They're and girls. They're relatively good looking. They can talk and they can wrestle. You can do all of those things on the indies, and they'll book you to lose 3 matches in a row, and you lose the blow off, and it's like, how did that happen? Like it's just kind of wild, It's but it's the ability to pin, because it's not most of these aren't broadcast on YouTube or Twitch or something like that. So maybe they think there's a lack of a following. Maybe they think people are just filling in from the street, the bars, whatever, and maybe they're not there for the story. They just want the action. But in my experience, the indies are missing that through line of good storytelling. You'll see things that don't make sense a lot, and it's like, well, story wise, that's awful.
Right.
Part of the business.
I do. I live in the Panhandle of Florida, and in Panama City, there's a Extreme Impact Wrestling. It's an XIW. The promoters, Adrian Whisper, guys like Damian Wayne. I don't know if he's in the Indies. Jackson Slade, all them. They do a show every 2 months, and one thing they thrive on is to make sure there's a story to keep coming. They bring you back 2 months later, So
right.
I totally get it. You don't want to go into something and like, okay, here's a match, and then because then you lose interest, because for us fans, I mean, I'll say my favorite, most awesomest time in wrestling was the night I was watching Bash at the Beach, and Hogan comes down. You haven't seen Hogan in quite a while, and Macho Man's getting his ass beat and blah blah blah, and leading up to that, you have Scott Hall and Nash invading WCW all the time.
Third man.
Yeah, who's that third guy? So every month, every WCW day, I go to lived in a complex. I go down to the rec room and I turn on WCW, and there it was. And here's Macho Man laying on a thing, and here comes Hogan and drops that leg, and I'm like, what?
Yeah,
and that just spiraled into my love of wrestling again, because it had died off at that point in time. So I say that to ask this: what's your favorite era for you growing up and now?
Oh, I'd say when I was growing up, it is probably the era I was in, which was, is the Monday Night Wars, is the Attitude Era. Now that I'm in the business, I like the 80s a lot, man. I like the feud with the Horsemen and Dusty, when they take his arm and they break it in the car door and stuff like that. I like his tag team stuff with Magnum TA. Magnum TA. I got a story about that. But it's I don't know. I gravitate more towards the 80s because while it wasn't perhaps so athletically crisp, the storytelling was leaps and bounds above what it is today. And you believed it, Dusty's out there bleeding like a stuck pig, and you're like, I better send Dusty Rhodes a letter because obviously he went to the hospital. And now Cody Rhodes gets it, and props to Cody, man. Cody tears his pec, and it's bad, and he goes and wrestles, and nobody writes him a letter. I don't know. It's so I think the 80s for sure hold a very special place in my heart. If it's not the 80s, it's obviously the Attitude Era. What happens on TV today is outstanding. They are athletes like never before right now. You got guys like Ricochet and you have your Becky Lynch's and your Baileys and people like that. It's just they're on this other level of athleticism, and it's pretty wild to see.
Yeah. So 80s and WCW and Attitude Era. So I'm going to ask this TikTok question.
Okay.
It's more of a joke than anything. So who is the biggest WCW heavyweight champion ever?
The biggest WCW. So I'm gonna say the Giant, Paul White, right?
David Arquette.
I hate it. God, no. Oh.
Anyway, we'll move on from there.
That hurt. That hurt right here.
I don't believe it either, so don't worry about it. It's just a an icebreaker question. So hey,
I like it.
can you describe your training regimen and physical demands of being a pro wrestler? Like, where did you train? Who was your trainer?
Sure. So I trained at the CLW Cactus League Wrestling. It's now a defunct league, which that happens in this business. Mac Havoc was my trainer, and Mac was very, as wrestling is, he's very cardio heavy, and he would tell me things like, you look like a wrestler and you move like a wrestler, but I got to make sure you can breathe like a wrestler. So he'd have me hit the ropes 100 times, and those ropes are brutal, man. They are. Everybody thinks it's you hit the ropes and it's fine. They're metal cables with with hose around them. It's and I'm 250 pounds, so I go and I smoke that rope, and it's like, oh my god. It was real cardio heavy. Now, you have to keep up in your ring shape, so you got to go in and where we are right now, way south in Arizona, there's not a wrestling school. There's one an hour and a half away from us. There's one 2.5 hours away from us. But in our town, which is a small town, Jason Aldean, it is there's nothing to train here. So a lot of us would get together, mostly the Peacemakers, and there's 5 of us technically. One of them lives in California though, and he's got his own way to do it. But the 4 of us will get together to live here. We'll go train in a boxing ring, and it's a lot different than a wrestling ring. And you work on your, you work on your connectivity. You work on things that you saw in your last match, and you're like, that sucked. So for me, I work on my my footwork a lot. I'll work on my chain wrestling a lot. Some of the other guys, they need other places, and I can't. And I'm really glad you asked this question actually. So I can't stress this enough. I am a pretty big dude, 250 pounds. That's not a small guy by any stretch of the imagination. And I don't got the cleanest diet on earth, but you can tell I go to a gym pretty frequently. I got a gym in my backyard, and I train weights every single day. And so does every single other member of the Peacemakers. And you don't find a lot of that on the independent wrestling scene. Everybody's got an excuse. They work at Domino's until midnight. Their girlfriend won't let them. Mom and dad need them to be home by 10 o'clock at night. There's some excuse somewhere in the indies. And on the record, I know I'm not the fittest guy on planet Earth, but I know for a fact I'm one of the strongest guys out here in the indies right now because, when I was doing strongman, I got a 405-pound overhead press. I got a 500-pound squat. I got a 500-pound deadlift. I got a 300+ pound bench press. That is a big part of wrestling training and safety is being a base. If a guy comes off the top rope, you got to be able to catch him and not let him blow through you. You got to be able to catch him and receive him well. When you body slam somebody, you got to be strong enough to hold him up. People watch wrestling. They don't realize how strong these guys and these girls really are. And I can't stress it enough. I get in the ring once during the week, and then I'll go wrestle once on the weekend. And every other day, I'm pumping iron, man. Right now, we switched up. We're more in a bodybuilding phase. We usually train power for the most part, but right now we're cleaning up the physique a little bit. We're gonna try and put a little more Alexander Hammerstone on this. He's try and get a little more jacked, just a little bit more.
He's a big dude.
He is.
He's freaky big. I mean, like, what the hell? Yeah, so if I understood you right, you would probably agree with this. Those that don't put the effort into it because they work the dominoes or the mama said they can't or the wife says they can't or the girlfriend says they can't, they're the ones on the bottom looking up at you guys because you guys are going to want, you're putting forth the work and or no.
Realistically, man, and it's no secret, wrestling has politics, and a lot of these dudes that haven't seen the inside of a gym, in 5 years, they're holding a title belt somewhere, and it's like, how did you do that?
Right.
But it is what it is. Some guys, maybe they have an injury that prevents them from training. They just keep it quiet. But I'll tell you, there's a lack of biceps on the independent wrestling scene. So we need to bring back biceps to wrestling. Okay, make biceps great again.
Gotcha. So I loved your promo. Actually, I told my wife, I said, "Oh shit, this is the first guy that's called me out saying, hey, you want a piece of me or something." I can't remember how the word for word. I'm like, oh damn, So it was an excellent promo. So I say that because I asked this question. So other than the physical aspects of training, is this where you learned promos, how to do promos in training, or?
So when I went through school for wrestling, there was promo class, and I went through probably 3 of them. And I'll say that a lot of people miss out. They watch wrestling. They'll go take a pee when The Rock's talking. They'll go make a sandwich when Bailey is on the mic. They'll be on their phone texting when MJF is cutting promo, and that's a key element they're missing. And they forgot talking is a big part of the business. Everybody will tell you, "Oh, you got to know how to talk, brother." But then you get them on a microphone and they're like, and before this though, I had some acting experience.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's just the ability to be in front of a camera and talk like you mean it. That's what a promo is.
Gotcha. I mean, one of the best, in my opinion, today, had to pay attention to the 2 people that he mimics. It's LA Knight. That guy is phenomenal on the mic.
He is.
And so is Stone Cold, and so is The Rock.
Yep.
And those 2 boys, you got to believe he watched those 2 guys.
Oh, absolutely.
So he's one of my favorite promo guys. So it's the best experience while in training school when you finally step through the ropes into a match. So let me reword that. Is the best experience and best training in the ring at training school, or is it firsthand while you're doing it?
The best training is so it's good to go to the school so you can learn you can put the tools in the tool belt, right? Pardon my French, you don't know shit till you step in a wrestling ring and actually have a match. Right. Everybody, they'll go, and then wrestlers tell you all the time, you got to train, and you do. You have to train. But if you're in your 5th or 6th school and you basically wrestle in the same state constantly for the same promotion, you might want to take a look at your life and go, I'm doing something wrong. The best you're going to get is having matches. Learn what you need to learn from your school. Go pay X amount of dollars a month or a year, however long your school takes. Most of them take about 4 months. Pay the money, get the tools for the belt, and then go get booked, man. There's some promotion somewhere. Show up with your bag. About a show up with your bag, and I bet you dollars of donuts somebody can't make the gig. Their gig at the AutoZone, they couldn't get out of it that day. Right. So there's an open spot, and you can open the show. You got to get in the wrestling ring to understand what wrestling is. And the adrenaline dump, the second you step between those ropes, the first 5 times, all of a sudden you've been training your butt off, and you're sucking air like 2 minutes into the match. They don't prepare you for that. Training doesn't prepare you for that. It's the live motion that gets you.
Oh, gotcha. Wow. So what's the most challenging aspect of being a professional wrestler, both physically and mentally?
Man, that is, I think mentally it's being away from, like, in my case, so I'm a single dad and I have a shared custody, and I'll miss, a day or two with her going to a show in California or Utah, and I'll set it up to, I'll let my ex know, and it's all gravy, it's all fine, but you're driving back from California at 1 in the morning, and you know that you're not gonna get to see your little kid until the next day, and that's an extra day you're gone where you don't get them, and that kills you, man. That sits pretty heavy on me. The travel of wrestling is perhaps mentally the hardest part. Physically, I actually just posted about this today. I think there's a post that said, wrestling isn't fake, and I think that's the big component that all wrestlers we push for. We're all proponents for that, and people might think they know what it's like, especially for the indie guys. But I'm working on two hurt knees and a bad shoulder right now. One of the other peacemakers, he's got a bad back right now. One of the other peacemakers doesn't feel good. He's beat up generally. Another one, he's separated the shoulder in a match over in California. And it's living your everyday life, going to your 9 to 5, and doing your thing, and trying to be a normal human being while you got these aches and pains, and everybody thinks what you do is fake on the weekend. Physically, that is the hardest part, where you got to go work at a high school or a Walmart, or in my case you'll go to a residential facility, and you got to wear your button up shirt, and you're covering up these bumps, these bruises, these cuts, this pain, and somebody at some point makes some joke about wrestling being fake, and it's all like, brother, this is a lot more real than you realize. So yeah, it's the wear and tear of the body. Like the post had said, most professional wrestlers won't wrestle a quarter of their life, a third of their life. It's very brief. You get to do this, and one day when you hang those boots up, everything you did still stays with you. Your knees hurt, your shoulder hurts, your neck hurts, your back hurts, and it's people don't realize the physical pain we go through just to entertain people.
Absolutely. So you talked about the peacemakers.
Yep.
So I would assume that brotherhood in the business is very important to you.
It is. It is.
Can you explain how important a group of people joining forces in the business? Do you guys have each other's backs, etc.?
Yeah. So realistically, I think the brotherhood of this business is very important. If you can find a clique of dudes you can roll with, or dudettes that have your back no matter what, you're golden. Because I'll tell you, man, you think you know what you're doing, you got a pocket full of cash, for your weekend out in California, Utah, Colorado, wherever you're going that week. You get there, and all of a sudden everything costs a little bit more than you expected, and you got to eat dinner, and you're strapped. So one of your brothers puts down $5 bills so you can get some Burger King for dinner. Or, in my case, I wish, I could say something like Burger King. These guys take real good care of me. We'll go to like Bob's Big Boy. There's one in California, and it's a sit down restaurant. It's a classy place, man. I dig it. It's a big good burger joint, and I'll go to pay for my own thing, and one of them will be like, "No, man, you drove," and they'll cover. And the idea of having guys that will literally give you everything they got because they love you, they love spending time with you, and they love what you guys do together, that is irreplaceable. A lot of guys walk around, backstage, and they'll call you brother, and I'll tell you right now, I got about 4 brothers in this business that I honestly believe would bend over backwards and move mountains for me. I ain't speaking bad about anybody. I ain't saying negative things. I'm saying for a fact, I know there are 4 dudes that would literally do anything for me if they had to, and it makes it easier. It does. It makes it a lot easier.
That's awesome. I was talking to Herb Simmons of SICW up in Missouri. He's an old school guy. He brought in the Briscoes and he brought in through all those guys, the Funks and stuff. And he was talking about the territory days.
Yeah.
Are we missing the territory days now in the independent scene?
Oh, you bet. You bet. I wish with everything we still had territories. And you get a little flavor of territories. We're going to work out in Battleground, and they in Colorado, and they have they're doing like a live stream of their show, and that's awesome, man. And they're doing sponsor a pro wrestler and stuff like that, and that's great. And that's kind of a little taste of the territories, because your territory days, you're getting wrestling on your TV from the NWA, the AWA, whomever, once a week. You get a show with Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, and you could write letters in and you could send these guys money because you just loved them so much. And you get a little taste of that here and there on the indies. But I think if the indies were a territory, if there was more territories, like real territories in the indies, wrestling you'd be able to make it your job. You could make a true living off of wrestling. I know guys like Hammer make a living off wrestling, and they're still in the indies. Jacob Fatu, guys like that. But I mean everybody. Your Bob Armstrongs. Like the guy that isn't the champ. If territories were a thing and you were running bi-weekly or weekly forms of television, whether it's online or whatever, and you controlled, Arizona, New Mexico, or the southern parts of Arizona, New Mexico, man, you would make so much money. If the Four Corners were a territory, right. That's where I am right now. I'm in Arizona. We're part of the Four Corners. Right. If the Four Corners were a territory, you'd have some of the most badass guys and girls doing some of the most badass matches you've ever seen. I mean, for God's sakes, the death match was born in Texas. So right. I do think we are aching for the territory days. And I do believe in my heart of hearts, we are not far from seeing a territorial revolution soon.
Okay.
So I think so. We're headed back.
I hope so, because I heard he talked extensively about territories just like you did. And I would imagine that'd probably be, if you're an indie wrestler, you'd want that. If you're stupid if you didn't want that.
Absolutely.
I mean, that doesn't make any sense why you wouldn't want it, right? So
I agree.
You talked about Colorado, Utah, Arizona, California. So obviously there's a lot of driving involved. I'm not going to ask for everyone, but there's got to be. I can't especially with the Peacemakers. I'm sure 4 dudes traveling everywhere. There's got to be some good stories.
So far everything's been pretty tame so far. I will say you have moments, not maybe in the drive, but in these different locker rooms where you realize it is a much different culture in every different locker room. I was sitting with the other Peacemaker is one of the other ones. His work name is Chivero, and it's Chivero. So me and Chivero and Manimal, we're changing out in a locker room. I'm not going to say where. We're changing out in a locker room, and I look over, and Chivero's got this look on his face like he's done seen a ghost. And I look over at Manimal, and he's got the same look. And I look in the direction they're looking, and this fella is standing there, one of the other workers, and he is wearing a nude-colored thong. And brother, I'd never really been in the presence of that. And I was like, huh? And I went to go look the other way, and well, the torture wasn't over, because right next to him was a big 300-pound, full-grown naked man. And I was like, well, son of a gun, here we are. And it's different cultures. The writing, it's pretty basic. We right now our big trip is we'll go to California a lot, and on the way out we'll get together like 3 a.m. We make the 8-hour drive. We stop at a beef jerky place in oh my God, what is it? Quartzsite. We stop in Quartzsite in this beef jerky place. And there's this little old lady, and I guess she makes all this beef jerky. And then she sells little odds and ends, little specialty sodas and stuff. And, you know, to pad the numbers, obviously, because we're here for the beef jerky. It's little things like that. But I'll tell you, you know, you get 4 guys in a car that are, you know, dizzy from being up so early in the morning. Then they go and they wrestle and they get back in that car. And the conversation, you know, I haven't been in the car yet where we don't laugh until we cry, or we go hoarse from laughing, or you feel like you're legitimately going to pee your pants because you know, and it goes back to the brotherhood thing, man. When you're with these guys day in and day out, you train together, you travel together, you sleep together, you eat together, you wrestle together. It really, I don't want to say it makes it easier to be away from like your you know, your kids or whatever, but it's a nice distraction when you're gone, for sure. It makes it I don't know, because it's not easier, but it makes it so you can withstand it. You know, it's great. Well, I'm sure we're gonna come up on a couple stories though. We legitimately have our next 2 out-of-state dates are 13-hour drives there and back. So it's going to be 26 hours total in a car with four guys that easily crest over 230 pounds apiece. So it'll be fun. That's for sure.
I bet. So I have a feeling that us wrestling fans have a misconception of professional wrestlers. So is professional wrestlers all fun and roses like us fans think it is?
No, no. You know, there's a downside to wrestling, and you don't always face it. You know, the majority of the time you show up, you get your boots on, you go in the ring, you have a good match. Sometimes you get your boots on, you go in the ring, you get kicked in the back of the head so hard you don't know where you are for the majority of the match. And then you got to go to work on Monday. Like that did not happen. You obviously have your politics, you know. Well, it's the key with wrestling, right? Everybody knows about it. Yeah. And politics can make people feel horrible, you know, make you feel small, make you feel like you don't want to do this. Maybe it's not right for you. And that's the man maker, right? It's right. Once the politics press down on you, are you going to leave? And that's you know, it's a pretty tough decision to make, you know, because in politics, a lot of the time, you know, people feel disrespected. I'll tell you, in my experience so far, I have only wanted to kick one guy's ass in the locker room. Like he got me heated enough to actually want to kick his ass. I could say the same for Manimal. I think he's got a couple more than me. But you know, for the most part, you gotta be able to separate. You gotta be able to go, this is supposed to be fun. Okay. And when it stops being fun, you need to stop doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I think that's with anything. I mean, just like, you know, yeah. I mean, my job with our jobs with working with kids, when that becomes more of a job and not fun anymore, it's time to hang it up and walk out, because you're going to hate it the rest of the life. So how do you guys balance the scripted entertainment aspects of wrestling with the physical athleticism required in the ring?
How do we balance the scripted with the physicality? Well, I think the easiest way to answer that is to say, you gotta, like, okay, so in my case, I am, you know, I got a former kickboxer, weightlifter, all that good stuff. I know it is a script. It's a scripted event. And I also know that I hit hard. So I usually will warn, going in, you know, and I hate kind of pressing kayfabe like that a little bit. But if we haven't worked before, I'm going to tell you straight up, this isn't going to, then, you know, I got one of my peacemakers is, I'm not. He's Victor Ursus. Bobby is his regular name. I told Bobby the first time I ever met him. I said, "Well, I gotta warn you. I'm a little snug. I'm gonna get you hard." And he's like, "It's all good." He's a former Army guy and big boy. And we start working, and I popped him a couple times, real good. We get into the back, and he goes, "I thought you said you hit hard." And I was like, "Oh, we're gonna be good friends. We're gonna be real good friends." It's the scripted with the physicality. You gotta be able to realize it's a work at the end of the day.
All right.
You get bombed, you get slammed, you get chopped. You got to realize you guys are gonna walk back, and somebody's gonna be like, "Oh, that was so good!" Like it's real rough housing. You just got to be able to draw the line.
Gotcha. So, is there any memorable or huge moments that you can think of in your career that you'll stand out as, yes, that is the biggest moment ever?
Yeah, for sure. So about a month ago, no, I guess we're almost 2 months out. I won my first title, the Urban Legend. It's the Urban Legend Horror Chainsaw Champion. I just call it the Urban Legend Championship. I won it. I won it in front of one of my peacemakers, one of my best friends. I won it in front of the other peacemaker's family, which is also the other peacemaker's family because they're brothers. And I consider them brothers at this point too, honestly. I got to win it in front of them. One of the other peacemakers was in the match with me as an opponent, and it was one of the bigger shows that I got to wrestle in front of. It was pretty packed, more packed than normal, and some of the boys from my job came, and it was cool to win the belt in front of them. My dad and daughter came though, and I'll tell you, it was real cool to do that in front of them. And I actually haven't got a chance to talk about this, so this is the first time I could talk about this, and it's kind of deeper. It was really cool being able to do that in front of my kid. So she knows, that anything she wants to do, she can do, because her dad went and he did it. And it was so important to me, man. And I held that belt up and I told her, I was like, in the middle of the ring, in front of everybody, I got up on the rope, held that belt up, and I told her, this is for you, Then I went through and I told everybody, I was like, this is for all of you. But my dad wanted to show my mom, and we all watched it together he had it on his phone, and he put it up on the TV, and I win that belt, and there's confusion on who won, and they go, and new. And when they said new, my daughter started screaming, but so did my dad. And I'd never heard him that proud of me before.
That's awesome.
And it was the best feeling that I could make my dad and my daughter that proud of me at the exact same time, and I could do it with two of my best friends in the room and their family, and I got to do it in front of those boys who need a good example in their life.
Right.
And it was just a really big moment for me.
That's awesome.
But hearing my old man like legit just lose his shit for me, man. It was that was it. That was the biggest moment. And I won and lost 2 titles since then. But that first one, it meant the most. I'm sorry, I'm outside. It's getting a little windy, so if I'm hard here, I apologize.
That's all right, man. So what is the most important things that you want the fans to see from you, specifically when you're working a match?
So if we're talking character-wise here, I was a cowboy, like a real cowboy. I did that for a handful of years, and I really loved it. And I want them to be able to look at Stud, the way they looked at Terry and the way they looked at Dusty, and they go, that is a real cowboy, and he is tough as nails, and he's gonna fall down, he's gonna get scraped, he's gonna get bumped, and he's gonna put some dirt on it. He's gonna get up, and he's gonna show that guy across the ring what for. That's when people watch a Stud Bronson match, I want them to look and go, man, that stud, he is a stud. That's what I'm looking for.
That's right. So, is there any pre-match rituals? What you eat? Any hype music you listen to?
Oh man, you're literally getting all my secrets out right now. So I'll pick up Manimal. Like if we're working semi-local, like in Tucson, which is about an hour and a half away, I'll pick up Manimal and I'll tell him. The second he gets in the car, I go, "Hey, did you eat?" And he goes, "No," and he'll give me a reason why he can't eat, and I'll be like, "Okay, we're gonna go to Burger King," and I will make him eat Burger King with me because it's an hour and a half drive. So by the time you get there, you're gonna be hungry again anyway.
Right.
And so I'll make him eat Burger King with me, and then we don't eat for the rest of the day. And if it's a really big match, I'll actually go here. For all my matches, I pray before them. Every single match. I pray for my safety. I pray for my opponent's safety. Mm-hmm. I pray that they enjoy what we do and that we just go and we have fun. Every single match, I stop right before I go out and I pray. And not a lot of people know that. Now here's the big secret. That one was a little bit of a secret. This is the big secret. I was a kid and I read Mankind, A Tale of Blood and Sweat Socks. Okay. And Mick talked about going and training, and doing the wrestling thing. And he was getting ready to have a big match and he was looking for a tape. He just wanted to distract himself. And he put on the first tape he found, which was Tori Amos. Okay. And he put on a song called Winter, which isn't by any stretch of the imagination a violent song. And I started to listen to Winter before my bigger matches. Before I won the Urban Legend, I listened to Winter. Before I won the ASCW Hardcore and the Compton Boulevard, I listened to Winter. And I don't know what it is about the song. Maybe it's because I know what it did for Mick, but it does the exact same thing for me. It makes it so I can go be Stud Bronson. That's awesome. And I go and do it. So yeah, those are my pre-matches right there.
All right. So how important is the communication between guys backstage, refs, and the ring and your opponent?
Okay. So communication between me and my opponent and the ref and even the commentators, it's really important. If you guys aren't all on the same page, it's not going to be a good match. I've wrestled a lot at this point, and if your ref isn't there with you, if they don't know what's going to happen, they're useless. And you making your referee useless makes you useless. You're bumbling around the ring. You're making your ref look bad. You gotta talk to your ref about what's happening. You got to talk to your opponent about what's happening. You have to clear your spots with your opponent. You have to clear everything. I'll even go to a commentator and I'll tell him, hey, can you say this about me? Can you say this about this move? Can you, the first time I hit my finish, Jeff Mann was my commentator. And he said, here it is. It's the Marlboro Red. It's a Saito suplex. Okay. It's like a Doomsday Saito, like Killer Cross does. And I hit a Doomsday and he goes, it's the Marlboro Red. And he calls that his Cowboy Killer. And there's so much in that sentence because a Marlboro Red is a cigarette that was known as a Cowboy Killer.
Okay, yeah.
Stud Bronson is a cowboy. Stud Bronson's move is a Cowboy Killer. So how many cowboys has Stud Bronson killed? Like, it just makes your character look so much more in depth. Like, there's so much more to you. I remember Jeff Mann had a great call, and it was a suggestion, but the way he did it, the way his voice went, me and my tag partner, Manimal, we stepped up. We versed each other in a match. We stepped up face to face, and Jeff said, "It's like the missing link and a Kodiak bear." And he made with that. It was basically him saying it's the irresistible force meets the immovable object.
Right.
And by saying that, he made Stud Bronson a Kodiak bear. He made the Manimal the Bigfoot.
Absolutely.
And so if you guys aren't all on the same page, I'm not saying you're gonna have like the worst match on earth, but your match is gonna be 10 times better if your ref knows what's going on, if both of you know what's going on, and your commentator knows what's going on.
100%. I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the best on the mic today? Because like I said it earlier, you killed the promo. So I gotta say that. But who would you say is the best on the mic?
Oh my god. So I would be remiss if I didn't say, Cody Rhodes, LA Knight, MJF. I think those are all really obvious answers, and I think everybody will agree. You'll have a person in the comment section one of them is going to say that. For me, it's Edge. You put a microphone in Edge's hand, and he is going to tell you everything you need to know. He's going to make you feel everything you need to feel. Edge is the last of a dying breed. We don't realize how lucky we are that we get to hear him and watch him still. Yeah. It's, there's the rumbling that he's going to retire tonight on SmackDown.
Yeah.
And God bless him if he does, man. He's done so much more for us in wrestling than, the majority of us will ever know. Goldberg was the only guy really doing a spear. And 5-6 years passed, and here comes Edge doing a spear. And now everybody's got a spear, right? And maybe that's bad, but Edge opened that door. He made being kind of dorky cool. Right. I don't know, but no, Edge is, and he sits in that same book with like Triple H, and Triple H is obviously the guy that he's there with Mick Foley and Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, and so Edge, in my opinion, you put a microphone in his hand, you can put him up against anyone in wrestling today, and he's probably going to come out on top, man. I say probably because that MJF, he's got a venomous viper tongue in his mouth, and he might be able to out-talk Edge, but in my opinion, man, it's Edge.
Awesome. Okay, so do you think he's going to retire?
God, tonight? I hope not.
No? I think there's going to be some kind of twist, something. I mean, I hope not either, because he's one of my favorites. Edge and Lita, I used to watch that. That was epic. Yeah. Epic. One of my favorites, you said MJF, and my brother's probably listening. I'm going to say one of my favorite mic talkers is CM Punk. Yeah,
Punk is phenomenal on the microphone.
Yeah.
And, he gets a lot of hate right now.
Yep.
And I'm not in AEW. I can't speak to it. I've never worked with Punk. I've never worked with the Elite. But lest we forget, CM Punk was the man for a very long time.
Yep.
And it's he's always been good on the mic. He's always been good in the ring. I'll fix that. He's been great on the mic. He's still great on the mic. So no, Punk is very good.
My brother and I have a little debate going back and forth about the media scrum, and I don't see nothing wrong with it. He did what he did. He did, he is no different than MJF speaking trash in the ring loosely. They're both great. I'm glad that he's back in Collision. I will say this: I think Collision is one of the hottest things out there right now.
Oh, I agree.
It's just crazy good. So, so how does the crowd's energy affect your performance, whether it's in front of 1,000 or in front of 10?
If the crowd's not into it, man, it's so hard to turn it on. It is so hard. Like, if you're not getting cheered and you get punched in the mouth, and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna lay here then. You hit me in the mouth. I'm just gonna lay down. Nobody's reacting. Thankfully, I've yet to experience that. I have had quieter crowds and smaller crowds, but they're usually a couple people that are always making noise. And as long as, so I'm actually going to stop there and I'm going to say, if there's somebody listening to this that goes to indie shows and you are embarrassed to cheer, because if you're the only person cheering, you're giving those wrestlers a heartbeat. You are the electricity. You are their light switch. Keep them on, because if you're not doing it, they can't do it. You're not going to get the same quality match. 100%.
Awesome. So who's the best running show right now? NWA, Impact, ROH, New Japan, WWE, AEW, in your opinion?
Oh man. So I really like Power. NWA Power, but I will say you have to disqualify the WWE. The WWE they're the Disneyland of theme parks. You're not going to compare the Fun Fest in your town to Disneyland. It's hard, man. AEW is Six Flags Over Texas. It's almost, it's not quite. Give me just a second. I'm gonna turn this light on real quick. So I see I'm going dark. Give me just one second.
No problem.
Sorry about that.
That's all right, man. That's okay. We're good.
So I really like Collision, actually. Collision is my maybe it's because I get to watch it with my daughter, and like me, and like if I'm in town, we'll sit down, we'll watch it with my tag partner and his family, and our other tag partner, the Chevetto. We'll all watch it together, and it feels like good Saturday night fun. I really like Collision. WWE's too big to compare it to. Obviously, that he's going to win all the time. So I'm gonna say Collision followed by Power. So AEW and then NWA. Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you have any connections with the guys from NWA? Like, I know I have. I'm friends with Koa from NWA. Those guys. We talk a lot. So, do you have any connections that you talk to bounce stuff off of?
So no, I don't. I would love that. So if you want to, be the through line there, please,
All right.
please. The person I bounce stuff off of. So I trained with Mac Havoc. And that he was really good to me. He really put me, I think, on the right path. But there's a wrestler out this way who wrestled for the NWA at one point. He's the Heritage Tag Team Champions. Is Navajo Warrior, and Nav he's my mentor. He's the guy I go to with my stuff. I'll tell him I'm working on a new move pretty recently, and I sent it to him, and I was like, "What do you think?" And he's like, "Well, instead of doing it like this, do it like this." I'll complain to him when things aren't going right. When I don't like the way something's going, I'll shoot him a message and I'll see if I'm wrong. And sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. But so Nav is he's my guy but he's worked with the NWA, he's worked with the WWE. So I guess maybe I do technically. But I don't know. I don't look at it like that. I look at him like my teacher. I don't look at him as like a company guy. I'm like, you're the best wrestler I know personally. So let me ask you these things. 100%. And yeah, he's awesome. He's great.
I think I've seen stuff on you that if you had to choose to have your eyes focused on a major promotion to be NWA, am I right on that?
You are 100% correct.
Okay.
I would. The NWA is my goal. I would love to bring the Peacemakers into the NWA and run roughshod on their tag team division.
Okay.
I know Trevor Murdoch he won the Crockett Cup last year. Him and I don't know if he's the former Mike Knox. And I'm saying it right now. I think the Cowboy from Hell and the Manimal would eat them alive.
There you go.
Younger, stronger, faster. It's I think we'd definitely be able to punch their ticket. But yeah, the NWA is my ultimate goal. It is.
All right. Awesome. So my topic is, what's your opinion on crossover between pro wrestling and other forms of entertainment, such as movies, TV shows, and video games? So celebrities in wrestling like Logan Paul, Mr. T's, etc., are they needed?
So yes, I'm gonna say yes. We wouldn't have wrestling today if it wasn't for Mr. T and Cyndi Lauper. The Rock and Roll Connection. I'm talking wrestling on the scale it's at now. That Rock and Wrestling Connection was that was off the chain, man. You know, you brought in the biggest TV star, who was in the biggest movie at that time, and you brought him with the biggest female musician, and then you bring in the greatest boxer of all time, you know, for your first WrestleMania. There was so much that outside celebrities did for pro wrestling. I will say this though, I don't think we've had a really good celebrity in wrestling since, I think it goes Mr. T, it goes Stephen Amell, and then Logan Paul. Because I don't think anybody but those three really took it seriously. They went and they competed well. So, you know, and Logan is, you know, he'll have his detractors, but the stuff he's able to do with Ricochet, nobody else can do that with Ricochet right now.
He's money.
Yeah, he is. And he connects it to his drink, you know, his Prime Energy drink. And so the kids go to the store and they're like, oh, I'm going to buy this Prime, like Logan Paul told me to. Who's in the WWE? Oh, yeah, SmackDown's on tonight. I should watch that. Right. And there you go. You're reaching more households with bigger celebrity. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Best storyline of all time.
Oh man, that's super hard. Nobody has ever asked me that. It could be Dusty versus the Horseman. It could be Brett versus Shawn. It could be Steve Austin versus, you know, Stone Cold versus Mr. McMahon. I'll go with that. I'll say it's Stone Cold versus Mr. McMahon. It was the everyman, is the blue collar worker dropping his boss on that stack of dimes he calls a neck. And I can't tell you how many times we've all wanted to do that. At least once in your life, you've gone, man, I would like to punch you right in your mouth. You know, tie wearing, desk sitting, pen right, and I just want to. And Steve and Vince did something that, like, I know him personally, Steve and Vince. Steve and Vince, they did something that hadn't been done before, you know?
Absolutely.
There are incredible storylines in pro wrestling, from Hulk Hogan having lust in his eyes, looking at Elizabeth, to, you know, Hulk Hogan stuffing The Rock in the back of an ambulance and hitting it with a semi-truck. Yep. We have incredible storylines. I think Austin McMahon takes it. I really do.
I like the Bloodline storyline, of course, it's the current one.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
only because it's they did so well with it, bringing family into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just epic. And I did not know this happened, but I was just watching I think old school WCW or whatever, and the Four Horsemen. I watched the episode where they're kicking Sting out of the Four Horsemen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to come back and watch the rest of that because Sting's my guy.
Oh yeah, you know? Same. I love.
Oh my God, Sting's my guy. So I'm like, wow. So, yeah. How about? Would you say there's a worse storyline ever?
When Kai and Tai choppy Val Venus's pee. I think that's one.
There you go.
I think the Katie Vick storyline with Kane and Triple H was awful. Like, I don't want to say it was awful, right? Like, everybody performed at a really top rate. Like, it was the eventual unmasking of Kane. Like, but we just maybe shouldn't have gone that route.
Right.
Another one is Al Snow and Big Boss Man, when Boss Man fed Al Snow his dog.
Yeah.
But that brought back the British Bulldog. So that worked out well. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's been some stinkers though, for sure.
Top 5 male wrestlers of all time.
Oh boy. So Steve Austin's the greatest of all time. Nobody outsold him. Still to this day, Steve Austin's in the top 5, I think, for WWE t-shirt sales. Nobody's done more money than Steve Austin, and probably nobody ever will, realistically. He's 20 years past wrestling. His t-shirt sales are still top 5. what he was able to do in the ring before the broken neck, and then completely adapting the style to wrestle with a broken neck, and then going on to wrestle with that broken neck and from 1997 until 2002, and then coming back 20 years later and wrestling Kevin Owens in a really good match. I think Steve is number one. I think Hogan is number two. Whether you like him, you hate him, you love him, whatever it is, wrestling today exists because of what Hulk Hogan did with Mr. T and Cyndi Lauper and slamming that 500-pound stinky giant. There's the quote from Hulk himself. I think Hulk is absolutely your number two. I think your next three is where it gets super hard. And you have to consider just their wrestling career, right? Like, so a lot of guys, myself included, would want to say, well, Triple H is number three. What he's done for wrestling post his wrestling career makes Hunter one of the greatest of all time.
Absolutely.
Okay. But if you go, well, just wrestling, like just their run as a professional wrestler, who do you consider? I would say probably The Undertaker is number three. I'd say Shawn is number four. And I'd say I would comfortably say Stinger is number five. Sting is 62 years old, 63 years old, jumping off of a ladder from the ring to the outside onto a 25-year-old kid, like through a table. Sting doesn't need to do that. Nobody thinks Sting needs to prove himself, but he does, and he does it to put these young guys over. And so, yeah, Stinger's, and people, oh, he's only number five. I would put him higher if I could. It's just the top five is very stuffed.
Right. Now Stinger putting the guys over. So,
oh yeah.
How important is, like, if I'm Stud Bronson and I'm in AEW, how important is it to listen to Sting, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, all those guys in the back that have been doing this and have done it?
I will say this. If you are a wrestler and you're on the indies and you get to go to a big league and Stinger sits down and he's putting his boots on next to you and he starts talking, lean in, listen to everything he's saying, and absorb it. If the Bucks do it, the Bucks did something. Man, this is gonna pop Manimal and his wife, because me and the Bucks, I have a heated relationship, one-sided with them. They don't even know I exist, but man, but I'll say the Bucks have done something nobody's ever done before. Them and Cody and Kenny going, we're a group of wrestlers and we're going to start a wrestling promotion for wrestlers, is bananas. If the Bucks want to talk to you, listen, give them the time. If you're an indie guy and you're sitting in the indies and a bunch of indie guys are giving you advice, listen to about 50% of them, because only 50% of them, maybe less than that, probably less than that, have your best interest at heart. I'm not saying don't listen when guys talk, but if it's just two indie boys and he's got a couple more years, maybe he's got a decade, maybe he's got 20 years, but he's wrestling in the indies, maybe consider the source. Take it with a grain of salt. If Stinger sits down and he wants to talk, do it. But if, Pontiac Pete, who's been wrestling the same cities for 30 years, sits down, he's like, let me tell you something, brother. Go, well, who'd you ever beat?
Yeah, right.
It is. I've got great advice on the indies. I've sat down with guys that, have been in the business longer than me, and they really open it up, man. They tell you what it's like, what to expect, what to listen for, what to feel for. I've also heard gas bags, but like I said, my mentor Nav, he's been in the business since like 90, 92, 93, something like that.
Right.
And he says anything, and I'm like, I'm all ears. And right. I'll go back and I'll watch the match that we just talked about. If he's got any critique on it, and I will go to the point he was talking about. I'll pinpoint it. I'll fix it. Fix it. Awesome. So yeah, consider your source, but absolutely listen.
Do you acknowledge the tribal chief?
Do I acknowledge the tribal chief? Man, you're just gonna pop all my boys today. Yeah, I do. I think Roman is playing on a field most will never see. This guy has beat leukemia twice. He has overcome being force-fed and is now one of the hottest, if not the hottest act in professional wrestling in the last 10 years. He is the guy from the Shield. There's no question. I'm not saying Moxley's. I'm wearing a Death Jitsu hoodie. Moxley's the man. Seth is the man. Roman is the tribal chief. He's the one you got to answer to. Yep. I know he gets heat for limited schedules, all this, all that, but his match quality is superb. He's really good on the mic. He's literally elevating everyone around him that gets to work with him. Bringing Cody in and you're going from Seth to Roman was phenomenal for Cody. Not saying that Cody wasn't already over like gangbusters. He was. Right. But Roman helped elevate him a little further and made him probably more accepted. But no, Roman is that guy. And I can't wait for somebody to take that belt off him. But right now, if it's not Cody Rhodes, I think the belt needs to stay where it is. I think Roman's the guy.
My favorite Roman on the mic. Well, yeah, I guess on the mic is now my ringtone from my wife. If she calls and goes, that one where he goes, baby, you are it. And if you because you are it, you got it.
Yeah.
You know, it was epic. I was like, yes, Yeah. So, are gimmicks necessary or overused?
A gimmick is necessary. The tribal chief is a gimmick. This gimmick is better than Roman dressing like a prison guard. And his character obviously drives the gimmick, but the gimmick is important. Some guys don't need a gimmick. Steve Austin didn't need a gimmick. Steve Austin was black trunks, black boots, bald head, goatee. He's gonna come out and whoop your ass. Rock was a gimmick. He was better than you. He was rich. He was a movie star. He was part of the nation. He was everything you wanted to be, and you weren't. He was Rock was a gimmick. The Dwayne Johnson drove the character. Right. John Cena, weirdly enough, isn't a gimmick. He's another Steve Austin. Hulk Hogan is a gimmick. He's Mr. America. He's that guy. He's that white meat baby face. He is. And some would go, well, the same for John, right? He was coming out doing the Marine thing. Right. But John was always basically the same thing. Hogan changed into more of an American figure over time from, what was he? Sterling Boulder. And then, he's Terry Boulder. And then he's Hulk. And then eventually he's literally carrying an American flag down to the ring, waving it around. And it was part of his bandana. Hulk became Captain America, and then he became the leader of the NWO. And that was a gimmick. I think, gimmicks are necessary. But you have to have the character to drive them. Now, you might be something special like Steve Austin or John Cena where you don't need a gimmick, but you probably need a gimmick. I got a gimmick,
Gotcha. How has the landscape of pro wrestling changed since you first started?
Oh my God. Wrestling is much bigger. And if people keep saying this on the internet, I didn't realize it, but if I follow one person on Instagram that is a fellow wrestler that I've never heard of before, and I think they're small time, and then I look at their mutual friends list, their mutual friends bleed into mine. Like we have tons of mutual friends. And then if I look at them, they bleed into guys like, Hammer, who I'm friends with on social, but I'm saying like, you'll have that. And then Hammer goes to Jacob Fatu. They're friends on social. Then that goes to the Pacific Savages. That goes to Haku that goes, and then all of a sudden you realize that wrestling is gigantic and probably the biggest it's ever been, and it's much bigger, and it's perhaps much more, I don't know, open.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the most valuable lesson that you've learned from whoever?
The most valuable lesson I've learned. Kind of, it goes back to your other question about sitting down and talking with someone. You first walk into that locker room and you sit down, keep your mouth shut and your ears open.
Okay.
I'm a big bad dude, 250-pound kickboxer cowboy, like legitimate. Like, you ever see the movie Raising Arizona?
Yeah.
Randall Tex Cobb riding that motorcycle, throwing spin kicks, smoking cigars. That's me in real life. I still walk into that locker room and I'll sit down and I listen. I'm quiet, and you do learn a lot from listening. So to answer the question earlier, kind of connect them, mouth closed, ears open, for sure.
You got your eyes on anybody out there that you that you're gonna you can call out and challenge?
Are there guys I want to call out or challenge? Oh my God. Yeah, actually. You know what? There is a guy, and maybe you would expect a small potato here. I'm not going to give you a small potato. Tyrus, right? That's NWA heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
He has been the NWA heavyweight champion for over 275 days. 75 of those days has gone without a title defense. Not a single one. Now, as I know it, 30 days, that means you lose that title.
Right.
Now, you've done that almost twice over now. We're sitting here with no title defense since the Crockett Cup. Is that right? And you're going out there sitting on gut field with your title belt, acting like you're a champion. So if people, they see this, go ahead and tag the NWA. Tag Tyrus. Let them know. I'll come. I'll wrestle you, and I'll take 10 pounds of gold. I'll take Charlotte. I'll put it over my shoulder because I'm going to beat the crap out of you. I'm going to set out a challenge right there. And I know people are going to be like, oh, that's so arrogant. That's so cocky. Well, hey, man, if I ain't doing it, who else is? 75 days without a title defense. You got Roman Reigns defending what? A couple weeks ago, people want to give that guy garbage all the time. You have MJF. He's wrestling twice in one night at Wembley. But Tyrus can't defend his title once a month. So, Tyrus, you got the cowboy from Hell calling. It's time to pick up.
You hear that, Tyrus? I'll be posting this on TikTok and all my social medias, and you'll be tagged in it. NWA, Tyrus. Let's see if he can answer the call.
Oh, yeah.
Matt Cardona. What's your opinion on Matt Cardona? I have my opinion on Matt Cardona, and it's probably different than yours.
I love Matt Cardona. And I know there's some clicking right now. My phone tends to do this if it gets hot, so I apologize if I'm overheating. So it might be a little clicky while I talk. So my bad. I'm sorry. Matt Cardona he's it, man. Like, he went from the biggest show in the game. He does a little bit in Impact, does a little bit in AEW, decides maybe he doesn't like this, and he goes and he collects every single belt he wants on the indies. And he's giving these guys a push. He's giving all these guys a rub. I'm like, wow. He's going out wrestling in a style he doesn't need to wrestle. He's done a death match. What?
Right.
Zack Ryder did a death match? Like, I really like Matt Cardona. I think he's great.
I do, but I asked him to be on the show, and he wanted me to pay $500.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, nope. Is he good? Yes. I'm not gonna say he's not good, but I'm not a big man that's gonna cash out $500 to somebody for coming on a show. I'm just not gonna do it.
I get that. I understand.
What's your opinion on Cash Wheeler?
So FTR is they're like my favorite tag team. Like, outside of myself and Manimal, they are. I get compared actually to Cash all the time. Okay. I'll be in a locker room. I'll walk back from my match, and they're like, "Holy crap, It's
Dude,
like watching Cash Wheeler wearing Terry Funk tights. I like Cash a lot. I think I read up on it, and we know very little. I guess it was a road rage thing.
Yeah.
And he might have flashed a firearm, and he didn't shoot anything. He just, he showed them.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes.
Absolutely.
If it's a serious mistake, obviously he went to court for it. You can't say, well, I don't know if he did it or not. Sounds like he did it. We all make mistakes. Nobody was hurt. I'm sure it was in the heat of the moment. Right. God bless him. God bless him.
That's same here. I mean, I hope that you did what you did, but let's move on and hope it doesn't get blown out of proportion because we all make mistakes. Every day I make mistakes. So
same.
Sorry. Okay. Before we close the show, I work with kids, and of course we sit around the dinner table, and they got some questions for you.
Okay.
Call them kid questions.
All right.
Favorite food?
Okay, so I'm gonna do this. It's easier for me. I'm gonna do favorite meal. My favorite meal is Cowboys It Gets. I think it's country fried chicken with cream gravy and mashed potatoes with cream gravy and corn, and then you got a side of biscuits and gravy. So that's my favorite meal.
Yeah, that's a great meal.
Thank you.
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Yes, it does. Weird, right?
Right. You play video games?
Yes, I do.
Favorite video game?
Red Dead Redemption 2.
Favorite movie?
Conan the Barbarian.
Favorite hobby?
Oh my God, weightlifting. I guess it's how I break up the time.
How much food do you eat in a day before working a match?
Before a match, I'll eat once, like a breakfast sandwich from like Burger King. I try and keep it light. After the match, I will literally go eat a whole dinner at Big Boys. But before a match, you take a bad bump. You hear the stories all the time. John Cena throwing up, CM Punk pooping his pants. I don't want to do it, man.
No, I don't think I'd want to do that either. So if you see that chair behind me, that's from an indie show.
Yeah.
That I took my kids to. So they asked, does a chair shot hurt?
Yes, it does.
What will you do after wrestling is over?
I want to be a mall Santa.
What? A mall Santa? Yeah. There you go.
I want to be a Santa Claus. Yeah.
Love it. You sleep a lot?
Yeah.
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 All right, that's what they got. So. Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast fans, I appreciate you coming on tonight with the man Stud Bronson. I'm going to give it over to you for you to close the show. Tell people where we can see you at in Stud Bronson style. You can call anybody out. You can tell everybody where we're going to meet you at. And by the way, I got to say this. Your tag partner, Manable, a no-show.
What?
I
think he's sitting out front of my house right now.
He's scared. He's afraid to come in to get these questions. That's what it is.
Exactly. He's being camera shy. I'm gonna give him a load for this. Don't worry. I'm a rhythm for it.
All right. So close the show, my friend. Tell us where we can find you. Tell us where you can find your merch, and anything you need to tell the people out in the future, 2023. Let's have it.
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Stud Bronson or at the Stud Bronson for TikTok and Instagram. You can get T-shirts of the Stud Bronson brand from tpublic.com. You go on, you type in Stud Bronson, 4 or 5 of them pop up. You can see me next at Throwback Era Wrestling TEW this Sunday in a Barrio Street fight against Barrio Bling. After that, we have STF Pro Wrestling August 26th in Salt Lake City, Utah. The South Pacific Savages will be there. Shane Douglas will be there. Kevin Sullivan will be there. Jacob Fatu will be there. It's a loaded show, and I'm going to call it right now. I got 2 battle royals. I got one for the tag belts. I got one for the King of Combat. And I am guaranteeing you right now, I'm walking out with one of those. I'm either going to be the King of Combat, Stud Bronson, or me and Manimal are going to be the STF Pro Tag Team Champions, Stud Bronson, the Manimal, the Peacemakers. After that, September 9th, We are at Battleground Pro Wrestling in Pierce, Colorado, and we got some fine opponents going to happen there, and we are going to win. I'm just, that's how we do it. We're just going to beat them. That's that's it right now. If we're calling people out, I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna call out Tyrus. I want a shot at Charlotte. I want that 10 pounds of gold, man. That's what I want. I want the NWA. I want Tyrus. I want it all. Me and Manimal take those tag titles. We'll take that heavyweight championship, and we will make the NWA great again. And we can listen to Smashing Pumpkins with Billy Corgan while we do it.
There you go. Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast. This is Huge Pop and Stud Bronson. Don't go anywhere, Stud Bronson. After I play this music, I'll meet you in the lobby, man. Thank you, guys. Have a blessed night. Good night, everybody.